All right. Does anyone here work on their own car? Do your own work to your own car? All right, good. So I do my work. I do my own work to my own car because I found it to be very expensive, and you can't really rely on somebody else. Sometimes they don't actually do what they're charging you for. I know this because I've known people that have done that. I want to talk to you today about taking care of your car. I've had some recent and some other experiences when I was younger, but I've had some recent experiences that fit well into this speech. First I want to talk about fluid level. So your oil helps your engine go. Without oil, there's going to be a lot of friction and your motor's going to blow up. Without coolant, your motor's going to overheat and it's going to blow up. Without gas, you're not going to get anywhere because your car won't start. Washer fluid, you could probably do without that. I don't think that does anything. So your fluid levels, please check your fluid levels often. There's different instructions in your user guide that comes with your car on how to check your fluid levels. You have to do certain fluid levels at certain temperatures, like your transmission fluid has to be hot, your radiator fluid has to be cold. Please check that when it's cold. And make sure they're at the correct levels, because sometimes little leaks over time will turn into a big issue because you won't have any fluid left. And that could cause you a lot more money than it would if you had just stopped and checked and filled your fluid up. Next, I want to talk to you about tune-ups. So a lot of people neglect this. They usually just fix things when it breaks, which is kind of a bad thing to do. Now, recently, I went to go change the spark plugs in my wife's Subaru, and one of the spark plugs had fused to the inside of the threads. So that was an amazing experience. I was at a loss for a little bit, but luckily some of us know how to use tap and die, so the threads were saved. I was able to put in a new spark plug, so it's all good. But what I learned was that, like, when you do your tune-ups, sometimes you do it in good faith thinking, oh, I'm taking care of my car. Look, I'm putting spark plugs in, I'm putting oil in. But if you use cheap parts, it only helps you in the short term. That person used, whoever did that before me used cheap spark plugs, which is why when it started to fail, it overheated and then it melted itself to the inside of the head. So in essence, they took care of their car in the short term, but not in the long term. So if you spend just a couple extra dollars on things like spark plugs, use synthetic oil, change your serpentine belt. They're like $15. It's not that hard. And if you do that, you're going to set your car up for success. That's why a lot of people will brag about having a car that's gone 400,000 miles. It's because they've taken care of it at every single interval. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is noises. Some people, and I've had people come to me and say, oh, my car is making a noise. What is it? And it's like, it's knocking. You have a rod knock. What happened? Oh, well, there's no oil in it. It's been like that for a week. Okay. So if you hear a noise, please stop. Get your car towed. Do something. Recently, I had a noise in my transmission. I was able to drive it home, and I found a huge leak. A hose busted, and all my fluid came out. So my transmission started to have a lot of grinding and a lot of friction between metal that didn't have fluid in between it. So I was able to change that. I ended up saving my transmission. I missed out on a couple of things, some family time, some other things I was supposed to do that day, but I also missed out on spending $2,400. So if you hear a noise, no matter how small or insignificant you think it is, please stop, check it out, have someone else check it out, get your car towed if you think it's that bad, because you could really save yourself a lot of money. I know from personal experience, as I've probably, in a certain car that I've owned, rebuilt the motor 3 times. So those are some pretty hard lessons, because each of those was like $1,400, and that was me doing it myself in my garage. So if you pay someone else to do it, you're going to pay for the labor too. So it'll be twice as much. So please, people, take care of your cars. I like buying used cars, but I like buying used cars that work and don't have spark plugs melted to the inside of the head. Guess I'm done.
Okay.